think of it like this. In the last 10 days, we've had talk about a wealth tax, South Africa leaving the International Criminal Court, of President Jacob Zuma saying people like me need a media appeals tribunal to stop me doing what I want. Oh, and the Independent Electoral Commission got a new head, and Ria Piecha was suspended as head of the National Police Service. In almost any other democracy, all of those would be stories that would run and run and run. And almost all of those happened in literally one 7-day period just last week. So we'll be discussing all of this morning. Justice Malala is the well-known commentator. He's a writer, he's a talker, he's on TV, and he really does know what's going on in the ANC. He's also a restaurant critic, if you want to ask him his view of the breakfast later. But more important than that is that he knows what's going to happen, and that's what makes him so valuable. He's the person who will tell us if we will ever have an election as close as that rugby match between Scotland and Australia last night. Someone else who has a particularly clear crystal ball is Clem Sunter. He's the guy who harnesses the wisdom of the fox to predict the trends that matter, to work out what's going to happen here and around the world and how it all interacts and comes together. He'll talk a little about the high road, the low road, the road through China, the road maybe through Russia, the road to nuclear. We'll be discussing all of that this morning. And we're very grateful to have a sponsor for this breakfast. Deloitte Consulting have come on board. We're very pleased to have them with us. In fact, Marius Alberts, who's the director, regional leader of Deloitte Consulting in the Western Cape, is with us this morning.
First of all, I know that we have to have breakfast, so I'm going to make it quick. It's going to be my fastest presentation ever. I have to say, if you're going to be fired, don't be fired by President Zuma. I mean, I would have expected him to give her a call and say, you know, don't go to work today because I'm going to make the announcement. But I don't know if you guys saw this. She was sitting in a portfolio committee meeting here in Parliament, and someone comes over and says, look, you've been fired. And boom, that was it. I'm sure many of you are thinking of taking that job. Don't take it, because the last person to do it was Becky Cele. And if you remember that Becky Cele was standing in Mpumalanga at the roadblock, directing cars off the road and asking them for their licenses. And someone came over to him and said, "Bra, President Zuma has made an announcement. You're no longer the police commissioner." The guy before that went to jail. That was Jackie Selebi. It's not a good job there.
Very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, Clem Sunter.
As they say, there was a time. This was June '64. It was the Magdalen College summer ball. And we were a kind of resident Oxford band, and the Rolling Stones were asked to do 4 sets. I mean, they weren't that well known at that stage. So we basically played at the same gig as the Stones, and then we all had breakfast together. And yes, I'm about the same age as Keith Richards. I look a bit younger because I've been on fewer trips. I'd like to do 2 things. I'd like to explain why I have moved away from doing scenarios to identifying the flags. In a sense, I'm doing what Justice showed on one of his first slides, how to worry properly. Get rid of the noise and look at the stuff that really can impact you. And then secondly, obviously, I'd like to take you through the flags that our international clients have raised with us when we've done strategy sessions for them. And then secondly, obviously, the ones that are affecting South Africa's future. I guess that what Chantal Ilbury and I did when we wrote The Mind of a Fox was to say that the future is pretty much unpredictable, even 6 months ahead, let alone a year to 5 years ahead. And therefore, you should write scenarios, theoretical futures, rather than try and predict what's going to happen. But we found that even theoretical futures aren't what really turns people on. what they want to know are what the flags are which are currently changing their game. Because there is a huge difference between business and sport. I mean, rugby is very much like it was 50 years ago. So is cricket, so is golf. Any game of sport doesn't change that much. Business and other organizations, their game changes very quickly. And if you're not aware of the flags that are changing your game, then you can go under as a business very, very quickly.